Welcome to Command Control Power, the longest-running Apple consulting podcast. For over a decade, we've delivered weekly episodes filled with epic tech support stories, troubleshooting insights, discussions about managing clients and businesses, and interviews with industry colleagues and vendors, all tailored for our pro listeners. We also offer exclusive content through Patreon. This private podcast feed is designed specifically for IT professionals, providing valuable advice and guidance on tackling the more complex aspects of running your practice, working with clients and employees, and managing device fleets. With a modest monthly contribution, you'll gain access to a wealth of advanced Apple expertise, meaningful connections, and a community driven by a shared passion for Apple technology. Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support to learn more.
Command Control Power is brought to you commercial-free thanks to the support of our incredible community. We extend a special thank you to our VIP Premier partners, Adigy, the leading Apple device management platform, Tidbits Content Network, Cirrus Partners, and Electrona, the makers of Patch. We truly appreciate our VIP supporters and all of our patrons for making this show possible. Thank you.
And now, on to the show.
Welcome to another episode of Command Control Power. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. We recently talked to Adam Engst of Tidbits Content Network about bootable backups, and we got into a conversation about backups more broadly. It was a great conversation. I also thanked Adam for an article he wrote recently about gear recommendations, which is that topic that clients will often ask us about. I need a hard drive. What kind of hard drive should I get? And that kind of thing. The topic I wanted to talk about, first of all, that was a really useful article from Adam because it's not only got like a list of products, but actually a description that you can use. You're not just copying and pasting from Amazon. You're actually using content from the Tidbits Content Network that's written by Adam that we're, as members of the TCN, we can use. That is really helpful for these types of pages you can include on your website to link to affiliate programs. This is a topic I wanted to talk about, the Amazon affiliate program and the kind of rules around that. This is something that I got to understand through talking to Jerry on a recent, I forget if it came up on the podcast or on a phone call, but I realized after talking to you, Jerry, that I'm like, man, my Amazon thing from the affiliate program came up and it's like zero again. I haven't earned anything. I know I'm sending links out to clients to buy stuff with my link. Surely this must have added up to something by now. Like, what the heck's going on? And you said something off the cuff that I just realized after our conversation is the whole problem, which is that you can't just send links by email. It has to be a web page that you send the client to, like your own web page, and then they click the link on there. And the reason that's required, and you're learning this for the first time too, Sam, because this blew my mind. I guess what happens is when you email somebody a link, Amazon can't see where they came from, essentially. There's no referrer in that. Whereas if they click a link on your website, it's a referrer or referring link.
Referrer, I think is the right word there, Joe.
Yeah. It's a rough start here today. Yeah, right. Yeah. Should we just start the whole show over? I feel like that's really rough today. Oh, man. So Amazon sees you came from this link and they say, okay, that's a website that we have approved for this program. And I don't know when that started. I don't think it was like that from the beginning because I've always done it this way. I've had some links on my website in my newsletter I send out that's also on my website as a blog post or whatever. In the past, I've done that, but more so it's like somebody needs a recommendation and I send them a link. Here you go. Here's a link to Amazon, which everybody loves. But then I realized at some point I was not getting credit for that. I also went through this thing maybe 5 years ago where Amazon kicked me out of the program. And that happened to you too, Jerry, at one point.
Several times, yeah.
Okay. Okay, wow.
With cause,
really persistent. Yeah. With prejudice. Yeah. So I got kicked out and I was like, please let me, I don't know, I had to plead my case and they're sorry. And then I asked again and they let me back in. But it still was not clear to me what the problem was. So one of the problems that they kicked me out for that I did understand was the fact that we would sometimes use our own links. So
yeah, you can't do that either.
Can't do that either. Like I'm ordering this hard drive for my client and it's on my website. I'm just going to click the thing and order it. But if it ships to my office and they figure it out or it's paid for by my credit card or whatever the case is, because in some cases it's a different Amazon account, but I think they actually still pay attention to where it's shipping and credit card or whatever. they kicked me out for that. And I said, okay, thanks. I've learned my lesson. I didn't know that was actually a problem. But then I realized I still wasn't making any money. And this is why, is because I only send out links by email and I almost never send people links to. So here's my solution. I have had a page on my website for the longest time that I use internally, like just a quick way to copy and paste a link to the hard drive I recommend or the monitor I recommend or whatever it is. And for Tim on my team to also refer to, so he doesn't have to remember. He can just go to this website. So I used it internally, but I never published it because it was not really meant to be client facing. I just didn't link to it from my website. But recently, when I read Adam's article, which has descriptions of products and reasons to recommend one over the other, that kind of thing, I thought I can really update this page on my site. I can enhance it with better photos and better layout and that kind of thing. And then I'll just publish it and see what happens. Also, besides just like seeing what happens, what I've gotten in the habit of doing is actually linking clients to my own website, to my page, and just saying under the section for backup hard drives, click the one that says whatever, click the one on the right, that kind of thing. So that they're going to click through to my website first and then use the referring link to get out to Amazon.
Okay, so yeah, as you saw with my face, Joe, I was, what? But so the idea being that if you have a specific product link, that product link, let's say you recommend a lot of different things, they would all have to be hosted on your site and they would click through there. Or could you...
Nope. That's wrong.
Okay.
So go ahead.
We disagree. Let's hear your explanation.
So all they need to do is they need to get to Amazon from your webpage. They need to land there. And if they go and they buy the Star Wars trilogy, you still get credit for any shopping that they do on the website. So if you're directing the client to buy a hard drive and then to buy a screen, you send them from your website, let's say, to the hard drive, and then give them directions. This is the model number for the screen. You're going to get credit for the screen. So all they need to do is use it as the leverage point to get to Amazon. Because if you send it in an email, you're eventually going to get suspended. If you use your own Amazon affiliate codes, you're going to get suspended to buy products for yourself. I've been up and down this highway far too many times.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit more to add to this, but I
appreciate that, Jerry. No, my thing was I wasn't sure that was still the case, so I appreciate you clarifying that because I always thought that was the case. But I think, Sam, you're asking more like if it's a one-off thing that this particular client needs to buy a new power supply for their Synology, let's say, or whatever.
Yeah, like, very timely.
You're not necessarily going to find that product, make your little affiliate link, and then put that on your website for this particular client to go to your website to click the link to this thing. But to Jerry's point, you could actually have them go to Amazon from your website and just ask them to do that and then search for the part number, like to Jerry's point.
Can you do, and this is just my own lack of understanding on the Amazon side, but can you do something like where you set up on Amazon, not like a wish list, because that's more of a personal thing, but like recommendations or something like that, where people can go on your Amazon page or anything with that, where it's like your links?
That's a good question. I thought about that at the time too, and I just decided to do it myself, like on my own site. But that would make it much easier just to search for a product and click a button, and it just adds to your...
So their terms of service have gotten, to use their program, have gotten a lot more challenging. To your point, Sam, I believe you can make your own Amazon site that is a page from Amazon, but it's a lot more difficult. What Joe is suggesting, where you're writing something about a hard drive, you're creating an affiliate link with a button, and then people are going to that Amazon site from your webpage. The other problem is, and Joe is already aware of this, is you have to put a disclaimer on your website that you're going to get affiliate money back from this referral or for this. And so they're very vigilant about pursuing that. There's a company that I had been up and down the road, like I mentioned earlier, so many times, and I didn't want to do anything that associated it with my website at this point. I wanted to find a website creation tool that somehow had a tool that you could easily create Amazon affiliate links. And if you use the websites or the website creation tool Square, they have a way to do that, but not really. But there is a company that offers a Amazon link creator tool that you could build into your WordPress blog. And the name of the website hosting company is called Hostinger, Hostinger. And they're super, super cheap, especially if you buy it out for 5 years. And the first year you get a domain. So I looked for a domain that I could use precisely for sending clients to this webpage so they could buy things. So I got bestapplemacgear.com, right?
Sweet.
But it's very easy to add new posts on the website because of this mechanism that Hostinger builds right in. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, but it's much easier than anything else that I've ever found. So I would say if you're even thinking about this, and you could certainly put it on your own website like Joe did, but if you don't want to like screw around with, because that's the biggest pain in the neck is creating the actual affiliate link and creating the button and all this stuff. And like I say, there's a tool built into Hostinger that just does that for you automatically. And you could find a WordPress template that looks good to you. You could get one that's free. You could pay for one that for $50 and you're off and running. So that's what I would recommend if you really want to go in on all this. Now, it's not like you're going to be rolling in the dough. Once you set up your site and get going with it, I think someone has to do at least 5 unique purchases before Amazon says, yeah, this guy's on our team now, and they give you everything that you need to keep moving forward with them. So there's a little bit of a trial process for people who are new signups to the affiliate program. And then the final thing I wanted to say was, I had a client yesterday who bought some Nintendo Switches for their school. So they spent $1,300, and I tracked it because I wanted to see if it was actually working as intended, where they used my page to jump off onto Amazon. They bought the Nintendo Switches, which I did not list. And I think it was a total purchase of $1,300, and I got a whopping $13 for that.
Yeah, that's not bad though. I mean, I've been selling a ton of stuff and getting nothing. So
I know.
I'm like, I was looking for 13. I thought it would be like $20 or something maximum each month.
I'll split that with you, Joe. I'll give you
thanks.
$6.50 if you want.
No, I got at least that much value from you already, Jerry, from just this like breakthrough of understanding, oh, that's why I'm not making any money. I just thought it wasn't adding up. Like people are buying a $100 hard drive and I'm getting nothing.
Now you may want to look at this too, because you may be sandboxed by them at the moment and they may have flagged your account. So even if somebody's going from your webpage, you may want to purchase something from your webpage as a test.
Yeah.
And see if it's
good point.
If it's otherwise, you just have to create a new Amazon affiliate account. But normally, if you're pointing back to your website, that's the other thing too, is when you set up your Amazon affiliate site or account, they want to know what the website is. They want to know what you do. And so I guess there has been a lot of fraud or flim-flam, and they're trying to get away from all that. And it's like heavily vetted.
Yeah.
It's worse than the Apple program.
I remember going through this, getting approval, and they needed to know not only the website, but the page on my website where I was recommending products. That might have been even one of the first reasons I created a page. I'm like, to play ball here, I need to send them something. And I thought that was enough. As long as you have the links on their website, you can still just send the links out. I don't remember anyone ever telling me that I couldn't just email links with Amazon, my affiliate code in there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And why can't I don't
they have a multi-page terms of service that's like too long did not read kind of thing. And I never read it and I never knew.
Same. Yep. And I guess the only thing is the fraud and flim-flam that you mentioned, where someone could create an extension that pretends to do something useful, and instead it changes every Amazon link to an affiliate link that benefits some other person. So it makes sense they would want some level of control of like, where are these refers? Like, who's referring this in? I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't just let you send emails, though. If I want to send an email newsletter to 1 million people someday and sell a bunch of Amazon products, like why wouldn't Amazon want me to
maybe they consider that some form of spamming? It's the only thing I can think of.
I think it has to be public rather than private. So you could certainly put something on Instagram that would work to drive people to your website. The other reason for maybe not wanting to put it on your home website and maybe come up with a URL like bestapplemacgear.com is you might, after a while, start to index on Google, and somebody might put in those search terms, land on your website, look at a few things, keep on shopping on Amazon. And all of a sudden, serendipitously, you're getting somebody buying, like I said, Star Wars memorabilia from Amazon, and you've got the commission.
So how long does that last for? That cookie session, we'll say, for your affiliate link?
Great question. Days or something. When
3 days?
Originally, I remember reading something about that. That would be a good one to know for sure, though, because I was thinking that was my hope during the holiday season, was if I could just send an email newsletter out with a link to whatever, could be $100 hard drive. People are shopping every couple days on Amazon during that season. And so I'm thinking, like, if I just get in there and I'm the referrer, and then, like Jerry said, you get credit for the Star Wars memorabilia that they're buying for their kid or something, that could be pretty lucrative. So it's actually a pretty generous program if you can get so I'm going to start working on that a little bit more and see if...
I got an idea for you, Joe. So just spend a half a day and remote into each of your clients' computers and just go to your Amazon page once and then just close the window.
It's actually not a bad idea, other than it's a little shady, but if they're not coming from some other affiliate anyway... What does the client really care? So, and I'm sure I could script that, Sam. Like, this is interesting.
-A, Safari, then you put in your, put it through Adigy and bingo.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to send a pop-up. Please leave your Mac open and powered on during this time. Like, that's when my script's going to go out and open Amazon. Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. But if there's a slightly less shady way to do it, I don't know.
The other thing you could do, too, if you do sign up for a Hostinger account, and they're really cheap, and I highly recommend them, even though I haven't been using them that long. And like I said, you could search for a domain. So instead of bestapplemacgear.com, Joe, you could have the greatest applemacgear.com. And Sam could have the very best applemacgear.com.
That's right.
And then we'll have a contest to see who has the most money at the end of the year.
Totally. I love that. This would be a fun contest because I'm making effectively zero, like for the last year plus or whatever, without knowing it from Amazon. And before that, I was making something like 50. But if we're all starting more or less from scratch, let's have a little friendly competition and share our numbers at the end of the year or something. Like, what did you make on Amazon income in 2025? And this goes for our listeners too. Get on the action out there.
I tried to see if MrApple.com was available.
That would be a good one. Oh, man. Yeah, that's actually a great idea, too, because like you might as well I'm going to still do it through my company as well, but I could add a second page, a standalone, like whatever you call it, purpose-built kind of site for that. The other thing was other programs. What other programs do we all like? Because we've had this conversation over the years, and Backblaze comes up quite a bit, that it's nice to use your Backblaze affiliate link. But I found at one point something about my link wasn't working. And I mentioned this on the show, but I'm rethinking that now, that I wonder if I need to like have a page on my site that says like, here's our backup recommendation. And this is why. Big button to Backblaze.
Yeah.
Like, do they need to be coming from my site? I don't remember that ever being a necessary thing, but this is going to change my approach with clients, where instead of linking them directly to the thing, I'm going to be linking them to my site, which then links them to the thing. And I don't like the idea of making it harder for my clients. I never want to say, jump through this hoop for my benefit, not yours. But if I can make it enough of again, the Backblaze one is probably not a big deal. If they go to a landing page that then links them to Backblaze, that's very obvious. But if the Amazon one makes it a little bit harder for them because I need to describe where they're going to find the product on my page instead of saying, here's the link, they're going to be like, why don't you just copy and paste your link to me? Can you just tell me what to buy? Don't make it like a little Easter egg hunt here, like to find the product on your site. So that might be a little bit weird, but yeah, I don't know. Any creative ideas out there? Any other programs that people are using?
I don't think that Backblaze stipulates it has to come from a landing page. I think you could simply put that in an email link. I know that's also true with daylightmac.com.
Plug. Nice.
But I've mentioned that in the past on the show. I'm not suggesting people go out there and start selling daylight on the internet like I do, but that's been an extremely lucrative program for me.
Yeah, you've mentioned that a few times. It's been very lucrative. I love hearing that. So great. You've inspired me. Like I said, I did order, I don't even know if I set this up, but I have, there's yours, daylightmac.com, and I have backblazemac.com, which one day, probably during the show, I registered because I thought, why not set this up and just see what happens? I've also mentioned you guys this idea of, a while back, I learned that password, you could, if you're mistyping the word password on your keyboard, it looks like passwoes, like woes, like woe is me, passwoes. So I have passwoes.com. And I thought, why don't I make this like a flow chart of go to that site, go to passwords.com and answer a few basic questions. I use a Mac. I use Windows. I don't know what the questions would be like.
What is your credit card number?
Yeah. But essentially it's like the end result is probably regardless of how you answer these questions, might just be, here's the link we recommend, 1Password. And so that's my 1Password affiliate link. I also, at several points over the years, learned that I was out of that program and I never knew it. This is my overall advice with these affiliate programs is monitor this stuff carefully. They don't always have a way to know. I think Amazon does report when you make a sale. Is that right, Jerry, where you said the Star Wars memorabilia, like you could tell that was a client's purchase kind of thing? Or
you have to log into your account to see that you can find out what the product is. And I believe, well, that used to be the case. I did not see the product this time, but I know it was not something that I had on my page.
And I think Apple does that too for the custom store program. I think that you certainly can't see any customer information or anything like that, but I think you can see the sales. I'm not positive about that though, because I may be thinking of the old program, which again, as far as I knew, I was enrolled in this Apple affiliate program from before the custom store program. And it was using, was it Performance Horizon? I think Performance Horizon Group. Anyway, they would link to the orders, the total amount, and so you could see, oh yeah, this, I guess that person, I guess their computer that I linked them to did get purchased, and I got credit for it. And I was getting credit over all these years in this old Apple affiliate program, racking up actually a decent amount of income over the years. And it was just accumulating in Performance Horizon Group. And I remember reaching out to someone at Apple, and I was informed that program had been discontinued a long time ago, and I was not supposed to still be enrolled. And basically, it's just, you shouldn't have been able to see all that money that you were never going to see. Like, you shouldn't have been able to see that number because now. But I was just using it without even realizing I wasn't getting credit for it. So you've got to check this stuff if you can. I don't think Backblaze has that, but you can check with them if you got credit for a certain person's account, I believe, like on a case-by-case basis, but there's no dashboard. So it's just tough to know sometimes.
Apple currently uses Partnerize for those like custom store purchases that you can get some kind of detailed information and dashboard about and get payouts and stuff. But yeah, I don't think Backblaze has anything. Like I've said it in the past, usually just once a year, all of a sudden money appears in my account from Backblaze. Yeah. I'm like, oh, cool. I got money from them.
Yeah, same. It helps. It's nice just to see that. I get it usually, I think, every month or so from them. It maybe depends on your settings or whatever, but it's just nice.
I didn't even know you can go monthly.
Yeah. That might be because I selected PayPal. I don't know if they have other options, but yeah, it's nice to have something coming in, like just a little bit of a slow drip of money coming in, because we do recommend this stuff constantly. And if they want us to be their strong advocates, it makes sense to like reward us in some way. Although there's a lot of things I recommend that I don't get credit for. So it's too bad. I really wish that I was enrolled in some kind of Microsoft program, because they're probably getting the most money from all my clients on a monthly, or Adobe for that matter.
How about Ubiquity?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
I'd be retired.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So speaking of Ubiquity, let us know, please. Yeah. If anyone, but maybe they don't want to tell us because it's too lucrative.
Yeah.
Daylightmac.com. So speaking of Ubiquity, I was really excited because I was going to install one of these little small routers, one of these new routers that they make for a client. And I was looking around, and it's the Cloud Gateway Max, and they only had ones they didn't have ones that were empty, and I didn't need any storage. So this Cloud Gateway Max, you could use it to record video, and it's a very small footprint, but it's still amazing that it can do that. Ubiquity was out of stock, so I would had to have paid $279. And then I'm looking very quickly on B&H, and there's one. It's got no storage on it. That's the way I want to configure it. It's $199, which is what the Cloud Gateway Max costs without storage. And it's like Gateway Max, $199. I buy it. It comes in, and it's not the right product. So they have two products. One's called a Cloud Gateway Max. That's $199 for zero storage. And then they have a Gateway Max that's $199 with zero storage. So,
like
and you can't,
Microsoft.
right. And you can't put storage into the Gateway Max. You can only buy the Cloud Gateway Max with storage. So it arrived and I was trying to onboard it before I went to my client, and I realized that I needed a cloud key with it. Yeah, luckily I had a cloud key, I think from you, Joe, that you just said, go ahead and take it.
Yeah.
And I was able
to his office to get it.
Yeah, I did. And I tripped over the old carrier mail server in the process.
You plugged it back in, though. Still a load-bearing cable there.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, gosh. But then I remembered I had this. So I lucked out and I was able to use the cloud key, and it's still running. But what the heck, Ubiquity?
I have to say, this is a great PSA for me, because I never realized that those were named like basically the same thing and so different in ability. It's baffling. And like you said, the fact that they're the same price, this makes no sense. So Cloud Gateway Max is a compact 2.5 gig cloud gateway with 30 plus unified device, 300 plus client support, 1.5 gigabits IPS routing, selectable NVR storage. And like you said, there's a no storage option. And that's how I bought mine. I bought mine with no storage. You buy the sled separately if you need it, which I did, and you buy storage from Amazon or whoever. So I did that. It works great. So that was perfect for me. But then you've got the Gateway Max, which is a compact. Now, this is where they slightly differ, I guess. Compact multi-WAN independent gateway with full 2.5 gig support for high-performance networking at small to medium sites. But they do, when it says full 2.5 gig support, sure, but then they specify up to 1.5 gigabits per second routing with IDS IPS, which is the same as the other one. Okay, this has multi-WAN? The difference? Yeah.
And you need a cloud key. You can't run it without a controller.
Yeah.
All I think is that the Gateway Max came before the Cloud Gateway Max.
Maybe.
An earlier product that they might be phasing out at this point.
Oh, maybe. It is that new form factor, but yeah, you might be right. That was like the precursor or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. You got to pay really close attention to this stuff. And the other one you pointed out recently to me, Jerry, was at a client where your example was the garage was really cold this time of year and the access point just wasn't functioning, and you brought it indoors and then it like warmed up and it worked. And I looked into that a little bit further because you mentioned maybe go with an outdoor one, which made perfect sense there. And the outdoor...
Or buy a special space heater to just warm the...
That's pretty good, yeah.
So yeah, you can...
See, I set him up and he teased him off.
I appreciate it.
So he's from Jerry.
He's actually the funny guy. I'm just the straight man.
So the U7 outdoor that you installed outdoors and had incredibly good results with on the MacWork HQ Castle property. I think it even made it across the moat. It was like all the way down that can go up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, that outdoor one. Whereas the U7 Pro standard can only go up to 104 degrees ambient temperature, like operating range. They both go down to minus 30 apparently, and that's probably different than the old models, I assume. But I'm not so concerned about minus 30. You got much bigger problems if you're doing minus 30 Fahrenheit or whatever. But yeah, so that was another good, pay attention to that stuff. And there's a location at the same client for the attic. And that's a case where in the summer, it can be super high. It can be above 104 easily. It can be 104 outside. So yeah.
I think it's 104 on top of the heating duct where the other one is.
Yeah,
too.
That's the other location. I know. Yeah. That was an interesting scenario. I know. We should just put all outdoor APs at that client because I don't know. Yeah. It is nice they have this info, but you do have to dig in a little bit more carefully. What's new in your world, Sam? In the Unify world or Sonic Wall or Synology replacement power supplies? How's that all going?
Yeah, that Synology replacement went just fine, thankfully. But I do have one holdover issue from the Unify setup where we had the hundreds and we had them all knocking offline and coming online from few months ago. I think I mentioned this recently, but the contractor still hasn't done anything about it. But I still have 3 devices that never came back up online. Out of the rest of them, they stayed on forever. Like they've never had issues. Although every once in a while, I get alerts from only this client that shows on the server room, Unify switch went offline, and then it comes back online immediately. And that happens a few times, but the network doesn't go down. It's just, it stops communicating with Unify.
Yeah.
So it's a little strange. But
Sam, what was the solution though? Just remind us. Like the issue we think was the screws and the plates.
Yeah, here's the oddest thing about this that I thought I mentioned, but in case I didn't, basically we got those coated mounts that we were supposed to replace, and then the contractors that went in said there were only a few of them that didn't already have the coated mounts.
Yeah.
And so they just remounted them. And I said, did you cover the screws like I asked? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, great. So that's going to be a problem again. But it's never been again. It just stopped happening. So I have to imagine some outside factor was also, because the building was still under construction. So there's a lot going on at the time.
Or it could be that cascading. Yeah, sorry, Jerry. Go ahead.
That the three that never came up, they got damaged. They got arced out, and there's internal damage to those access points.
That's true.
It's very possible. Yeah. They're showing lights for power, but I've asked them to re-terminate those because we had a few issues where we actually re-terminated the cabling ourselves because the contractors never certified the cables.
Yeah, that could be too. If they're still lighting up, then they may not be fully damaged.
But I'll find out about that soon. But that's honestly on the Unify side. I'm trying to think. There hasn't been a whole lot that's happened with us on that side. We've gotten a couple of new clients, but they either had Unify or we haven't switched them out yet. It's tough sometimes if you ever take on a new client and they have what's probably a decent setup, let's say, just a different manufacturer. It's hard to say, we'd like to come in and swap all this out if they just bought it like a year ago or something.
That's the tough part, is how old is it? And also what their tolerance is and what their desire is for you. Because some clients are like, I want you to manage everything. That's not a system we recommend or can manage. Not that we can't manage it, but like we won't. And so if you want to switch to Unify, or if you want to just wait and hope for the best with the company you previously used, then we definitely want to either step up and take care of it, or wait, hope for the best, or replace it. But yeah, I have the UCG Max, as I've mentioned, and I wanted to go to 2.5. And just speaking of Unify, I wanted to clarify, because I heard Jerry's voice in my head about how I just need the bigger number all the time. So the justification, and I don't actually need this, I fully admit that. But the point is, if you want to go above 1 gig per second on Wi-Fi, then you need Wi-Fi 7 and 2.5 gig. Or above. Obviously, everything else is going to be, your bottleneck is going to be the ports on the switch if it's only a 1 gig switch. So in theory, if you want to start to plan for that future where maybe it's, again, I don't know if there's a real need. It's just it's like more that I wanted to get those higher numbers. So
it's usually how it goes with you.
Yeah, totally. But you need, if you want over 1 gig on Wi-Fi, you need it across the board.
I bet those new MacBook Airs, when they come out, Joe, they're going to have Wi-Fi 7, and you're going to have to sell this MacBook Pro.
No, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Because you need that.
Ancient 2024 MacBook Pro that didn't have Wi-Fi 7. Yeah, I'm going to need it, definitely.
Need a strong word.
Even though it's like sitting here plugged in anytime I'm actually using it anyway. But yeah.
Any update on the awake from sleep issues? And also, is there any update on, you had said that you were doing manually controlling with the Wi-Fi, and I suggested
show you. Yeah.
I suggested that you switch it back to auto optimize itself at night.
I didn't take your advice on that. I'm down to minus 70 DBM RSSI, minimum RSSI.
You got to hear it from Brains.
So,
Brains has to tell you to do it, and then you'll do it.
That's right. Yeah, it's right in the name. Okay, I do what Brains says. But so yeah, no, I have had to adjust that slightly again, and it does. For a week plus, it has seemed like it's working properly with requiring minus 70 or better RSSI. This shouldn't be necessary. And like you said, auto optimize should work. But I thought that what the auto optimize did was, I'm not sure if you're referring to auto optimize like Wi-Fi channels and whatever, or auto optimize, like just use all the defaults for the Wi-Fi settings. There's 2 places for that, I think. Let me see.
Because they did have software updates since you put that in, and that was my...
Maybe that has helped. I don't
Jerry,
know.
Do you bill Joe for this time?
You don't even know the half of it.
So. Yeah, so I will, maybe I will try that. There's a setting in the Wi-Fi network settings, right? You can, under advanced, it's like right after the password, auto or manual. So if you want to do things, have control over, I'm trying to think of why I went to manual. Anyway,
because you needed that.
Yeah, exactly. I needed to manually, I want control, whatever. I set it to manual, but there's an auto there. So that's one option where Unify probably recommends that you just let us handle it kind of thing, which may not be bad advice. And then there's the other option in the AP settings to auto optimize where they change channels, but that won't affect me because I've only got the one AP. So it's not, I guess it would avoid a neighbor
overlap.
Yeah, so maybe that helps. But yeah, that was my little
The waking
corner.
from sleep on your new MacBook Pro.
So it's been okay for the last, again, probably about a week. The only thing I changed on the Mac was I turned on high power, even on battery, so that when I come back and plug in, it should, I'm trying to remember if I've done that where I've unplugged and plugged back in since then, because I'm mostly just at my desk. But I'll tell you one other thing that may be related is that my monitor has a 1 gig Ethernet port built in it's like a USB hub, essentially. It's USB-C, plug it in the monitor, and it's got USB ports in it, and it has this Ethernet port. And I thought, well, that's convenient just to just plug one cable in, and now I've got a wired Ethernet connection. I also wasn't sure I really wanted to use that because I don't know who makes that adapter and if they're going to be able to hack that and send my traffic out somewhere. So anyway, I for a couple of reasons, but one of them being this wake from sleep and just I want to minimize variables. So in my Mac, I just turned off that network interface, the 1 gig built-in network interface on the Dell monitor. And instead I'm plugging in to a 2.5 gig adapter. I've got the 2.5 gig router now, so I want 2.5, need 2.5 on my Mac. So I plug in that USB-C adapter to 2.5 gig Ethernet. And so that's the only other thing that has changed, but it seems relatively okay. So I don't know. Sam, what's your issue? Because I know you've been having the same thing about it won't wake from sleep and you have to, unplug and plug it back in?
Yeah, it's gotten progressively worse. I've had this for a while where sometimes it would be just delayed in waking from sleep. I'd hit the keyboard a few times, hit the mouse, and nothing happens. And all of a sudden my monitor shows a signal, and then it would eventually show up. And then it's the last couple of months, it's gotten progressively worse. Wow. And I noticed when we talked about this last that Jerry had some recommendations. I figured let Joe be the guinea pig and see what happens. And then I'll make a change if he reports back something good. But overall, it's been worse. Like, it's horrible. I do have to unplug the display cable from my laptop for about 5 seconds, plug it back in, and then it starts working again.
Don't you love the one where that doesn't work? So then you unplug it, open the laptop so you can now, okay, it's definitely on, plug it in, then you get a signal. Just weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's just wonky. I felt with Apple Silicon, it was way better at first than with Intel. And now it's gotten back to where it's inconsistent again.
100%. Yeah, it's good. It was fine. Maybe it was a little slow, but I don't know what happened, if it was an update or what, but just, I can't pinpoint the time that it started, but I just know it's been sucky.
Yeah, I never did try that cable. Apple does have that Thunderbolt 4 long cable for $150. I don't know. It seems like overkill. I don't need Thunderbolt. I just need USB-C. But the problem is, in my case, I need a longer one. But I'm assuming you're using a very standard USB-C cable.
Yeah, I bought it on Amazon. But I got to see who the manufacturer is. But
I would try that next if I were you. If you can, I know Jerry didn't recommend it and I didn't try it yet, but if you want to try something in the meantime, get a standard 3 or 6 foot cable or whatever. For me, the issue I think is that when I have to go above 6 feet, that's like a very non-standard. Like people make them, but they're not good. Anchor should be fine. Yeah, I would think that would be okay.
And Sam, for the listeners, what kind of monitor are you plugged into?
A Samsung.
Any
of course,
affiliation?
It's a Samsung, right? Yeah.
Right.
Affiliation. See, that time Jerry got the laugh. That was good. I could dive into, I have this other topic I wanted to talk about, just the state of software updates on the Mac. And Sam, I'm curious because I know you have a little bit more experience maybe in Jamf with this than with Adigy, whereas all my experience is with Adigy. So I'll dive into this topic. I guess it's basically an overview of DDM and software updates in general. What got me on this again was just some conversation in the Mac admins Slack in the Adigy channel. Sam Knight asked about when users get notified, and Mac Weasel, I'm sorry, I don't know your original name, provided the link that I just was enlightening to me. It's this Apple Platform Deployment knowledge base article called Installing and Enforcing Software Updates for Apple Devices. So that's the article. And then it breaks down like just what happens, like basically when you set an enforcement deadline, like what's the timeline of when and where and how users get notified and like how it's enforced and so on. So I'll get into that part. But in the meantime, then friends of the show, Tim Nyberg and Mike Kingsley, were discussing this. Mike pointed out to Tim where to set the force install in Adigy, which is right where you'd expect it, basically, and then where to see pending updates for a device, which I thought was really interesting because you can actually see if a client says to you, hey, you're forcing me to update, what the heck? You can actually go in and look at those pending updates and you'll see what the enforcement date is. So if you screwed up and you did set it to a date where they're immediately now having to install it, you'll know that's on you, or you'll see that, no, they're just misinterpreting something that they saw. So I thought that was pretty useful. Then I think Mike also pointed this out, that the global DDM settings, and I don't know what this refers to exactly, but Apple uses machine learning to determine the best time to install rather than the countdown to that exact date and time when it's just going to be forced. So this is where I want to ask you a little bit, Sam, because I think this is more, it's not Adigy specific, it's more like Apple platform stuff, but where does it use machine learning to try to install at the best possible time? Yeah. Do you know
I don't think that happens with DDM though, because I set a hard deadline and that's when it does work, and it hasn't worked perfectly, but it happens at precisely that time.
Okay.
Let me backtrack on that, because there are a few different options that you have for the when part. So I typically do a download, schedule, and install. So basically you can choose your date and time. That's the difference, Joe, I think, where it's not using machine learning in the method that I choose, because I'm saying this is your deadline, and that's when it happens.
Okay, so but that's all DDM, right? Not MDM updates. Yeah. Okay, that's the part I don't yet have personal experience on, because I'm still using MDM software updates, and the reason is they've been working great for me in Adigy. Yeah. So I'll get into that, but I think I like the idea of, my workflow is to notify the client ahead of time using like a normal sort of pop-up window, essentially. Adigy sends the update, and depending on if they're using the computer or it's just idle, that either they get notified or it just happens. That all works for me, but the idea of my little extra added layer of notifications, I don't know that will be needed once I switch to DDM and just do it the Apple way. And then I'm of two minds on that, because I think it's nice to inform the clients as much as possible, but also not get in their face. So that's the thing, like, to find the balance. And then versus just do it as natively as possible, and just whatever the Apple methods are, I can always just tell the client, look, that's just the way it works. I make the system. But you're saying it's been a little inconsistent for you with the DDM actual enforcement?
But I think that's the MDM in question. I like, my issues stemmed from how Jamf is deploying them. And it's just been, I'll be honest, like a 60% hit when I do it. So a bunch of them just never hit the software update. And if I look in the logs, it's waiting to install, but it's 5 days past the date. Yeah. So that's not helpful. And I have to do it a couple times in order for it to go. So as much as I've been excited about this, it has been great, at least.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in and say, imagine some scenarios or some environments where you're setting schedules for updates and things like that. But where do you see this fitting in, of putting on your IT pants and going, we're going to do updates at this particular time because you need to update? I could see maybe in a school setting or a government setting, or maybe
everybody, but for me. Yeah.
We know it's like eating oatmeal in the morning. It's good for you, right? Or eating kale. My wife loves kale, right? And that's worse than spinach. I love spinach compared to kale, because kale tastes so bad.
We got to send you our kale salad recipe from the old Fat Cat in Norwalk. Do you remember that, Sam? Right?
Salad, yes.
But yeah, it was so good. Ashley, we got the recipe from them. We got it directly from the source, and Ashley has refined it over the years. And
my wife would love. She would really love that, and I might be able to eat kale.
I'll put it on the CCP recipes page.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But here's the thing. But are clients looking for that from us? We need to make sure that they're backed up. We want to make sure that they're not on Monterey or Big Sur or something like that. But are we like Mr. Update Man now in a lot of these settings?
I feel like I'm Mr. Update Man.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Update too.
Yeah. I'm like, there was a window of time. If you go way back when Adigy was able to use the built-in command line function to install updates, that was working great. And then Apple deprecated it. And so I went from Mr. Update Man, all my clients are getting the updates and whatever, and that's part of our offering. We manage your software updates. And I think it's really important because they fix the vulnerabilities that actually do sometimes come out. Granted, 90% of the time, it doesn't affect, probably almost 100% of the time, it doesn't affect any of my clients. And probably 99% of the time, almost no one in the wild actually had. But every once in a while, there's a bad one. and they fix it, and you better install that latest update. So my thinking is I've always wanted a mechanism in place that's reliable to keep these machines up to date. Most of the time, it's not a big deal. And yeah, you're having some buggy results here. Just let's update. You'll be fine. Okay, great. But I do think that it's important to have that in place. There was that window of time where I was still telling clients that I'm managing your updates because I was basically, it just wasn't really working very well because Apple deprecated the old system and totally botched the new one for 3 OS versions or something. Like, sorry, Apple, but it really worked pretty poorly for a while. MDM worked poorly for a while there. And Adigy created the MDM watchdog to fix that. It was like a little Band-Aid that actually solved that whole issue. And once they had MDM watchdog, the updates actually were reliable. And ever since then, I don't have any MDM problems that I know of anymore. And the MDM updates work very reliably, which is why I don't necessarily need to dig into DDM, but I want to be ready for it because it seems like that's the direction we're headed. So, Jerry, sorry, that was a long answer.
With DDM in Adigy, would they be getting a message from SciMac that they're going to get this update, or it just...
No, it's just leveraging. So with both MDM updates and DDM updates, Adigy is leveraging Apple's features to use MDM in both cases, even though they call it DDM. Apple calls it DDM. That's a new paradigm, but it's still MDM. Sending the built-in Apple commands and using that protocol to enforce a software update. I should just speak broadly. So the difference is like with MDM software updates, as the MDM server, you can just send the command, do this update. And then the MDM server is responsible for checking and saying, is that machine up to date yet? What's the status of that update? Okay, it's downloading. Okay, now it's queued for installation. Hopefully the machine reports back in later. Now it's up to date. Doesn't have to send the command again. But that's this manual process. DDM overall is a new paradigm in the sense that the MDM server tells the machine what state it needs to be in. You need to be running 15.2 by this date. And then the machine itself is responsible for making sure that happens. So that all sounds great. It doesn't matter who's responsible or how you call it. There's still things that are going to happen where it doesn't actually work. So great. The machine knows that it's really, definitely, really 100% has to be in that state. It has to be, but it still doesn't really do anything different.
I think it's more about autonomously reporting and releasing the load on the MDM server.
It seems more efficient.
Yeah, it hasn't been perfect.
No. Yeah.
I actually just sent out a DDM update while we were on the show because I was like, "Ooh, I got to send out 15.3 to this IT team on the." But Jerry, to your point, like I know what you were asking before, and I think it's part of what I write down on our managed services is what we do, so I have to. But I do try and, if I have any bigger clients, I try and test it out with a small group each time, and then they tell me, hey, it's good, and then we move on.
And why do you think with these machines that you mentioned using Jamf, you could have been using Adigy and it may or may not have worked? Why do you think it wasn't working? DDM.
I've been back and forth on them with this. No definitive answer as of now, but once I have one, and this has been a lot of communication, I will be happy to report back on the show.
So just to put in a pitch here, as a consultant, it was nice when you were using MDM and Adigy was telling the client that we were going to update them. Joe?
That was before that. So before MDM, the software update command, right? They had more control. You could pop up a window and send a command, and you could do whatever you wanted. With MDM, it's just a command that Apple invented, and so you send that command, and the machine pops up a little notification in the notification center that is Apple text, Apple logo, like not Apple logo. It's the gear icon that Apple. So you can't customize that. Is my point. So
what do you do?
You asked about what do you do? Schedule it weekly or whatever. So I schedule it weekly to happen on Tuesday night and Wednesday night so that they have a little window of time. It can depend on the client, but for the most part, I use a flex policy to capture in Adigy all the Macs that are running 15 dot whatever. And so that's my Sequoia updates policy. And then in that Sequoia updates policy, I use the MDM system updates feature to schedule the update to the latest version that I specify. You can also say just update it to the maximum all the time, but I like to, like Sam was saying, check it out first before I approve it from my fleet. And so then I update it to say, okay, I'm ready to do 15.3 or whatever. And then starting on the coming Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever the case may be, during this window of time, any machine in the Sequoia updates policy that's not already running 15.3 is going to, Adigy is going to push out that update via MDM, and it's going to use the built-in mechanisms to install it. Again, the only notification to the client is a little pop-up in the notification center, and they can click restart, I think, or they can dismiss that. If the beauty of this system, though, is that if the machine is not in use at the time, it's generally just going to update, which is great. Even in the case of a laptop that is closed, I think as long as it has like 50% battery, maybe something like that, it will also update, which is amazing. I think there are other exceptions to that, but for the most part, these updates work really well because it's using Apple's built-in system. But again, I wanted more notifications. So what I did was I added in it's a complicated system, but it uses a monitoring item in Adigy and a remediation and some custom facts. So the custom fact will be, this machine needs an update. And another custom fact will be, this machine needs an update and the user is active. And the second one detects that the machine needs an update, the user is active, and it's within this window of time, essentially. So this is already like super complicated. But this custom fact, these get run like every 5 minutes by Adigy, they get updated. So essentially, at any given time, if a machine is in this state of it needs an update, the user is active, and it's during the window of 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. or something like that, it's going to pop up notification on screen that says, are you ready to update? Like, your Mac will update automatically tonight, whatever. Please keep it plugged into power. I forget exactly, but you can then handle different other conditions. If it's not plugged into power, you might say you might pop up a message that says you have to plug into power for this update. Or if it doesn't have enough space, you can also detect that and say, hey, you don't have enough space to update. So like, free up space or get in touch with us if you need help. So that's my little extra layer to it. That thing about popping up a window when the user is active, that's not easy to do. You know, most of the time, like you can send a maintenance item that just runs at a specific time. Okay, it's 4 p.m. Let's display a dialog box, but the user's not there because they just took a bathroom break. And so they don't actually see it or whatever. So and then it's not going to display later when they come back to their desk and turn on their Mac. So my thing will actually wait until they turn on their Mac and now they're logged into their user session and the pop-up comes up pretty quickly thereafter. So I just find it's helpful to add that extra layer of notifications on top of Apple's system, which, again, doesn't have that kind of system. But I'd like to simplify it if I can, and if DDM is going to help me do that. So that's what I've been researching here.
I mean, you've been digging in with this, and I'm always impressed with your building out of your custom solutions there.
Yeah, it's been interesting to learn about how to do that because it's not the easiest thing. Maybe we'll cover that in a future episode.
Yeah, we should report back on this and see what each other found with this DDM component and some of your customizations too.
Yeah,
on a later show for sure.
No. Go ahead.
Maybe this is a good time to mention the product Electrona Patch, which you can integrate with Jamf or Adigy, which does tell the user that you're going to do updates for them, or they can defer the updates if they want. The fact that this has been taken away from us some time ago, as Joe mentioned, we want to stay present on the client's minds. This is not an opportunity, but certainly using the product Electrona Patch, I wouldn't think of not using it now going forward in what I do in managing clients. Yeah, if you haven't looked at, that's a great product that you could try.
I actually just got the prompt in Chrome while we were on the show, and it was perfect because I could just dismiss it pretty quickly, but it was a pretty good call out to Patch right there. So
yeah, and everybody out there listening, check out our episode where we focused on Electrona Patch. There's ways to do it in Adigy as well that I'll probably talk about in a future episode also about auto updating. If it detects that you have Zoom, update Zoom, and it's a flex policy that can do that essentially. And it's a little tricky though. You just feel like this stuff should really be easier to manage. I wish every vendor would just standardize on a system. Like Chrome lets you manage this using a configuration profile, and others just have to be manually done and whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting topic for the software updates versus the Mac OS updates as well. We'll get into more of this at some point in the future. I'll say that I did a quick review in preparation for this and found that I'm at about 75% of my fleet staying up to date without having to do anything really. Just the MDM system updates just work. To get it above that number of 75%, you do need to sometimes reboot a machine or whatever the case may be. But 75% updates is not terrible. I'm curious if you, maybe Sam, if you have a number, maybe I won't put you on the spot right now because you're struggling with that a little bit, but maybe in a future one when you get those bugs worked out.
You mean in terms of like what I find acceptable to be updated?
Yeah, or how many update without having to do anything, without having to get involved.
Yeah, the number's been a little up and down. I'm trying to get to within a couple of weeks to 100%, just like doing them in stages. But once I have a better answer on this whole DDM piece that hasn't been perfect, then I can comment on it further.
Nice. We'll focus on that in a future episode as well. But yeah, that's a quick little overview of like my understanding of MDM and DDM, and we can dig into the specifics about when the users are notified and how and all that stuff in a future episode.
And just a quick comment on that, Joe, you do need to be at Sonoma or higher to use DDM. So
good point. Excellent. Yeah. And then it changes in Sequoia as well. There's like a second layer to which features of DDM you can use, I believe. So
yeah.
It's interesting how recent a lot of this stuff is, given how important it is. But Apple's just been tweaking it. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of Command Control Power. We really appreciate you listening, and we'd love your support at commandcontrolpower.com. Click on support to become a patron, and you get lots more great content there. So we really appreciate everybody out there listening and supporting Command Control Power. Special thanks to the following community members whose strong monthly support has sustained us for all these years. Ryan Gowdy, CoreCompetent.com. Weldon Dodd, Kanji.io. Richard Wingfield, EnvisionDesign.net. Adam Rice, AskAdam.io. Mac Admins Podcast, podcast.macadmins.org. Tim Nyberg, TheMacGuys.com. Michael Thompson, Origin84.com. Matthew Waples, Waples.net. Tom Puls, BoxIT.tech. Jerome Potters, PITPro.nl. Steve Sorbo, MacSOS.biz. Andy Espo, CallAndy.com. And Nate Sinal, WeAreAScout.com. Thank you all very much, and thanks to our patrons at every level of support. If you enjoy the show, we really would love your support. And if you already support us and can increase your monthly pledge, we really do find that encouraging. CommandControlPower.com and click support. Thanks very much for listening and for supporting the show.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam